Why is it that so many hard-working people who wake up early, commute long hours, put in decades of effort, still find themselves in the same financial place year after year? Why does the middle class, with all its sweat and sacrifice, so often stay exactly where it is, struggling, worried, hoping the next paycheck covers the next bill? These are not just numbers on a balance sheet. These are lives, families, dreams that feel like they're stuck in quicksand. And if you've ever felt that no matter how hard you push, you're not moving ahead, you're not alone. That's exactly why Finance Fuel exists. To bring you not just knowledge, but financial fuel. So you can recycle, ignite change, and build momentum where others stall. I've spent over 2 decades in the trenches of lending, real estate, gold, stocks, and cryptocurrencies, watching markets crash and soar, seeing people lose everything and others rise from nothing. And through it all, I've learned that money isn't just math. It's emotion. It's mindset. It's the quiet fears you carry when the bills pile up and the future feels uncertain. The middle class struggles, not because people don't work hard, but because the system is built in a way that rewards some choices and punishes others. And too often, the middle class is caught in the middle of that trap, living with comfort that's just enough to keep them from leaping, but never enough to truly set them free. Think of it like this. Imagine you're running on a treadmill. You're sweating, pushing, your legs are burning, but the scenery never changes. That's what it feels like to live paycheck to paycheck, even when the paycheck is decent. You're earning, but the bills rise just as fast. You get a raise, but so does the cost of housing, food, and insurance. You buy a nicer car, but now you're chained to higher payments and higher stress. It's a loop, and unless you step off that treadmill, you'll keep running in place forever. I've met countless families across the US, teachers, nurses, small business owners, who make what looks like good money on paper. But by the end of the month, there's nothing left. The reason? Lifestyle creep. Every increase in income becomes an increase in expenses. The bigger house, the newer car, the latest phone, it all feels earned, deserved. And it is. But it also keeps you stuck, because what should have been fuel for freedom becomes fuel for chains. The middle class doesn't stay stuck because of laziness. It stays stuck because of choices that feel normal, even celebrated. And society itself applauds these choices, pushing you deeper into debt while calling it success. I want you to pause and reflect. Are you truly building wealth, or are you building a lifestyle that looks like wealth? There's a painful difference. Wealth creates freedom. Lifestyle creates pressure. One grows quietly, patiently, beneath the surface. The other screams loudly, but vanishes quickly, like smoke. And here lies the brutal truth. The middle class often mistakes the smoke for the fire. This isn't meant to discourage you. It's meant to wake you up. Because if you've felt this tug-of-war inside you, wanting more but not knowing how to break free, then you're already ahead of the game. Awareness is the first step. And once you see the trap clearly, you can begin to loosen its grip. Over the next few moments, I want to take you deeper into this reality, to uncover the root causes of why the middle class remains where it is and what it takes to break out. The truths may be brutal, but within them lies the fuel to change everything. I once sat at a kitchen table with a couple in their early 40s. Both of them worked respectable jobs. She was a nurse, he was in IT support. Their combined income was over $120,000 a year, which by most measures put them comfortably in the middle class. Yet as I glanced over their bank statements, I saw something that broke my heart. Almost nothing left in savings, heavy credit card balances, and a mortgage that stretched them thin. They weren't reckless spenders. They weren't lazy. They weren't foolish. They were doing what everyone around them was doing, and that was the problem. The root of the trap is not just money, it's conditioning. From the time we're young, we're told to study hard, get a stable job, buy a house, and save a little for retirement. It sounds safe, it feels responsible. But in today's economy, that formula doesn't create freedom. It creates dependency. The moment you stop working, the moment your paycheck stops flowing, the entire structure crumbles. And so people cling to the paycheck, afraid to risk, afraid to step off the path society promised would protect them. But what's worse is the illusion of security. The middle class takes pride in ownership, owning a home, owning cars, owning gadgets. Yet when you peel back the layers, most of it isn't ownership. It's debt. That shiny SUV in the driveway isn't yours until years of payments are complete. That house you're so proud of? In truth, the bank owns most of it. The credit cards that cover vacations, home upgrades, or emergencies, they buy comfort today at the price of tomorrow. And with every monthly payment, the chains grow tighter until the very things meant to symbolize success become the anchors that hold you down. This is the brutal truth many don't want to face. The system is designed to keep you working, not to set you free. Companies offer raises that barely outrun inflation. Banks extend loans that make you feel rich but quietly strip your future wealth. Advertisers feed your desire for more, convincing you that the next purchase is the missing piece to happiness. And all the while, your time, the most precious asset you have, slips away in exchange for bills that never seem to end. You trade decades of your life for a lifestyle that disappears the moment you stop trading. I saw this play out vividly during the 2008 financial crisis. Families who had spent years climbing into the middle class suddenly found themselves drowning when housing prices collapsed. The homes they thought were assets turned into liabilities overnight. The debt they carried became unbearable. And yet, a small group of people, those who understood leverage, savings discipline, and cash flow, emerged stronger. They bought properties at a fraction of their former value, turned crisis into opportunity, and built the foundation for generational wealth. Same storm, but completely different outcomes. The difference was knowledge, mindset, and preparation. The painful reality is that most middle-class families live right on the edge of collapse. A job loss, a medical emergency, an unexpected downturn. Just one shock can unravel everything. And because all the energy has gone into maintaining lifestyle rather than building assets, there's no safety net, no backup plan. That's why the middle class stays middle class. They're not building systems that work for them. They're stuck working for systems that exploit them. But here's the light within the darkness. Once you understand that the trap isn't inevitable, you can choose differently. You can step off the treadmill. You can shift from consumer to investor, from spender to builder. It doesn't mean living in scarcity or denying yourself joy. It means recognizing that every dollar has a purpose, and if you direct it wisely, it can multiply into freedom instead of debt. It means asking yourself before every purchase, is this bringing me closer to freedom or chaining me tighter to the grind? This is the beginning of change. To see the truth as it is, not as society dresses it up. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. That awareness becomes your compass, guiding you toward new decisions, even small ones, that over time transform your entire financial life. In the next part, we'll go deeper, not just into why people stay stuck, but into the specific actions you can begin taking today to reverse the cycle. Practical, real steps that anyone can start, no matter where you are right now. Because the fuel for freedom isn't found in theory. It's in consistent, simple action. I remember a young man I once mentored. He was making just enough to get by, working long hours, always tired, always chasing the next paycheck. One day he asked me, "What's the first thing I should do if I want to stop living like this?" And my answer surprised him, because it wasn't about making more money. It was about clarity. Most people drift financially because they never actually look the numbers in the eye. They don't know how much they earn versus how much they truly spend. They're afraid to confront the truth, so they keep going until the pressure becomes unbearable. The first step out of the middle-class trap is awareness. Sit down. Write down every expense, every source of income, every debt, every asset. This act alone feels like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, you see where your money is leaking, and that's the beginning of control. Once clarity comes, the next step is direction. Too often, people let money flow wherever impulse or habit sends it. But wealth isn't built on accident, it's built on intention. Every dollar you earn has power, but only if you give it a job. If you don't, it will slip away, stolen by restaurants, gadgets, streaming subscriptions, or small comforts that fade in hours. The middle class stays stuck because they prioritize spending before saving, while the wealthy do the opposite. Pay yourself first. Even if it's just a small percentage at the start, make it non-negotiable. Because the act of consistently saving, even a tiny amount, creates a habit that will expand as your income grows. Then comes the question, where should that saved money go? Here's where the middle class often stumbles. They put it into a savings account earning less than inflation, and over time their dollars quietly lose value. Meanwhile, those who build wealth put their money to work. They invest in assets that generate cash flow or appreciate in value. Real estate, dividend-paying stocks, index funds, even side businesses, all of these are seeds that grow into future freedom. It's not about chasing quick wins or timing the market. It's about steady, disciplined planting of seeds that compound year after year. Imagine a farmer. He doesn't scatter seeds randomly and hope for the best. He plants them deliberately, waters them, nurtures them. Over time, the harvest comes and it feeds him for years. Your investments are the same. Another brutal truth. Debt can either enslave you or empower you, depending on how you use it. Most middle-class families use debt to buy things that lose value, a car, furniture, vacations. This kind of debt bleeds you slowly. But when used wisely, debt can be a tool to acquire assets that generate income. I've seen people use mortgages to buy rental properties that not only paid for themselves, but eventually provided steady monthly income. The difference isn't debt versus no debt. It's whether debt is buying liabilities or assets. And that one shift alone can mean the difference between being stuck in payments forever or creating streams of income that free you. But perhaps the most important step is mindset. Because no matter how much practical advice you receive, if you don't change the way you think about money, nothing changes. The middle class often thinks in terms of scarcity. I can't afford this, or I need to save what little I have. The wealthy think in terms of leverage. How can I use this money to create more? They see money as a tool, not just a reward. They play the long game, not the instant gratification game. And when you begin to shift your thinking from consumer to creator, from spender to investor, your financial decisions begin to align with freedom. Practical steps, then, are clear. Confront your numbers honestly. Direct your money with intention. Build assets instead of liabilities. Use debt strategically and adopt the mindset of growth instead of scarcity. And if that feels overwhelming, start small. Cut one unnecessary subscription. Save 5% of your paycheck automatically. Read one book on investing. Take one step forward and then another. Because wealth is not built in giant leaps. It's built in steady, unshakable steps that compound over time. I'll tell you something I've learned in my 20 years of watching markets. The people who win aren't the ones who are the smartest or luckiest. They're the ones who start and who don't stop. And the truth is, you can start today. You don't need a 6-figure salary or a perfect plan. You need courage to begin and discipline to keep going. That's the real path out of the middle-class trap. Next, I want to take you beyond the steps and into a deeper understanding, a way of looking at money and life that transforms how you see the entire journey. Because numbers alone won't carry you. Perspective will. I often tell people that money is like water. It flows. It can nourish and grow, or it can leak away and leave you thirsty. The wealthy learn to build rivers, channels, and reservoirs so their water keeps flowing even when storms come. The middle class, however, often holds a leaky bucket, working harder and harder to refill it, only to find it empty again. And the saddest part is, they think the problem is not working hard enough, when in truth the problem is the bucket itself. That's why perspective matters, because without changing the way you see money, no amount of effort will set you free. Think of your life as a garden. Every dollar you earn is a seed. Some people eat all their seeds immediately, instant pleasure, instant comfort, but when the seeds are gone, they have nothing for tomorrow. Others plant some seeds, but in shallow soil where weeds, debt, bad habits, unnecessary spending choke them out. The few who break free are those who learn to plant deeply, to cultivate patiently, to wait for the harvest that comes not in days, but in seasons. The middle class often struggles because they expect wealth to grow like a microwave meal, quick, easy, predictable. But real wealth is slow cooking, like a stew that needs time and care, and once it's ready, it sustains you for life. The lesson here is patience and vision. I've seen people panic when markets drop, selling at the worst possible moment, locking in losses out of fear. But those who saw the bigger picture, who understood that downturns are simply part of the cycle, came out stronger. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, millions rushed to cash out their investments, terrified of the uncertainty. Yet those who stayed calm, or even invested more when prices were low, saw their portfolios recover and grow to new highs within just a couple of years. The storm tested everyone, but perspective determined who sank and who sailed. There's also a deeper truth about money. It amplifies who you already are. If you're careless, more money simply creates bigger mistakes. If you're disciplined, more money multiplies your discipline into opportunity. This is why developing the right mindset now, even when your income feels small, is critical. Because when larger amounts flow to you, and they will if you persist, you'll already have the habits, the patience, and the wisdom to direct them. You don't wait until you're wealthy to think like the wealthy. You think like the wealthy first, and the wealth follows. And let me share something personal. I've seen the glitter of quick success, and I've seen it destroy people. I've watched lottery winners lose everything within 5 years. I've seen crypto millionaires go from bragging online to declaring bankruptcy because they thought the boom would never end. And I've also seen the quiet builders, the ones who live beneath their means, invest consistently, stay humble, retire early, help their families, give generously, and sleep peacefully at night. The difference wasn't luck. It was perspective, discipline, and patience. Here's the metaphor that I hope stays with you. Building wealth is like climbing a mountain. The middle class often stops halfway up, at the point where they've gained some comfort but still carry heavy burdens. They pitch a tent there, convincing themselves that this is all there is. But those who keep climbing, who endure the discomfort, who travel slowly but steadily, reach the peak where the view is freedom. And from that height, you see something the middle class never sees, that the struggle was worth it, that the climb itself transformed you, not just the destination. So when you feel trapped, when you feel like the climb is too hard, remember that every step counts. Even when progress feels invisible, you are building something beneath the surface. And one day, the roots you've nurtured will break through the soil and the harvest will come. That's when the middle-class trap shatters and you step into true financial independence. But before we close, there's one more part of this journey, the emotional release. The point where all of this connects to your life, your choices, your future. Because knowing the truths, even living the truths, only matters if you have the courage to act. And that's what I want to share with you next. There comes a moment in every financial journey when the weight of everything, the bills, the debt, the fear of not having enough, presses so hard on your chest that you feel you might never breathe freely again. And yet, that moment can also be the beginning of freedom. Because pressure creates clarity. It forces you to decide whether you'll keep repeating the same cycle or finally step outside of it. And that's where you are right now. You've heard the truths. You've felt them in your own life. Maybe in the quiet moments you've asked yourself, is this all there is? Maybe you've wondered if you'll ever truly be free. I'm here to tell you, you can be. But it won't happen by accident. It will happen because you choose it. I've sat across from people who broke free. They weren't born rich. They weren't geniuses. They were people just like you, tired of running on the treadmill, tired of chasing comfort only to find more chains. They made a decision, a small one at first, to save instead of spend, to invest instead of consume, to think long-term instead of short-term. And over years, not days, those decisions compounded into something extraordinary. A life where money worked for them instead of them working for money. A life where they could take a deep breath and know they were free. The middle class stays middle class because most never make that decision. They let fear, habits, and social pressure guide their lives. They believe the lie that security comes from holding on tightly to what they have, when true security only comes from building streams that keep flowing even when their hands are empty. But you, watching this, listening to this, are already different, because you're seeking truth, not comfort. You're willing to hear the hard things, not just the easy ones. And that's the seed of transformation. So take this moment and let it settle deep inside you. Wealth is not about greed, it's about freedom. It's about time. The ability to spend your days the way you choose, with the people you love, doing the work that fulfills you. It's about resilience, the strength to weather storms without fear. And it's about legacy, the chance to leave something behind that outlives you. Not just money, but wisdom, discipline, and example. That is what the middle class misses when they chase lifestyle over wealth. And that is what you must remember every time you make a choice with your money. Here's my invitation to you. Start today, not tomorrow, not when you make more, not when the timing feels perfect. Today, take one step toward freedom, cancel one expense that doesn't serve you, put aside $1 that will grow, read one page that expands your mind. Because the difference between those who stay trapped and those who break free isn't the size of their paycheck, it's the size of their decision to begin. And as you begin, don't walk alone. That's why Finance Fuel exists, to give you the knowledge, the encouragement, and the perspective to keep climbing when the path feels steep, to remind you that your future is worth every sacrifice today, and to put fuel in your tank when the world around you tells you to give up. If this message has spoken to you, share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your story, your struggles, your victories. Because this isn't just about numbers. It's about people. It's about you. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Finance Fuel, so together we can keep building not just wealth but freedom, step by steady step. Remember this, the middle class stays middle class because most never dare to rise above the noise. But you can. And if you do, your life won't just change, it will ignite.